I'm Mick Waters, and I'm going to talk with you about the way in which we might reimagine schooling and to offer you an invitation. When schools work with children, what they try to do typically is to shine a light into the future, invite children to experience that future, play with it, and create the sort of shadow on the world that they imagine for themselves, to create their own futures. To do that, they build a curriculum. And most countries in the world have a curriculum. Every school has a curriculum. And every school's got a feature of it which is about the content. What's the geography? What's the history? What's the science? But actually, curriculum are also about talking to children about the way they learn and how learning is important in their lives. So children might learn that being with others and learning with others is absolutely central to success. They might learn that seeing learning as something done by communities of people is a vital aspect of the way in which they'll grow up. Now that's hard for some children who are in communities which have not succeeded in school or where families have not had educational success. So the school has to work doubly hard to show why education matters and why schooling matters. It might be that we want to emphasise compassion as much as competition. Competition is vital. It drives us forward, but we've got to learn to win with dignity and lose with grace, and at the same time think about ourselves and other people and the way in which we relate to each other. Essential in learning is that children realise that it will not stop. It's infinite, and there's a joy in that learning being infinite, that we want it to carry on forever throughout our lives, and most of all, that learning is not a trial, learning is a gift. And the challenge we've got is to enjoy learning so much that we give it to other people and help them to enjoy the lives that we enjoy. Now, if we take that curriculum forward and we put it into our schools, our challenge is to make our schools live that belief. And too often our schools become those strange places that are full of contradictions. So we know that attendance is vital. But we only open our schools for about 50% of the time that's available. We know that every minute matters. We tell our children every minute counts, and then we shorten our days. And we rush them in, push them through, and ask them to go and finish their work at home. Although we said we didn't finish our work, it carries on forever. We ask our children really funny questions. Are schools the only place in society where the people who know the answers ask questions to people who don't? We tell children, and we know they are, the individuals we want them to be. And then we test them all at the same time, at the same moment. We want our children to be the sort of people that I can't remember the next bit for. I'll just run it back and you can edit it in, is that right? We know that children's needs really, really matter. But at the same time, we close our school for holidays. And what I know is that children who experience disadvantage or poverty do not look forward all the time to a holiday that lasts several weeks. Poverty does not take a few weeks off. It lives with you. And somehow we have to help our children through these contradictions as we anticipate a better future for the curriculum that we develop. I thought you might enjoy this. This is a 10-year-old's message he would like to send the world. It was written in school as a challenge. And he wrote, Manchester United are better than any other team in the Premier League and everyone needs to know. And then he stopped because he had a better idea and he crossed this one out. And he wrote his better idea just below it. This is what an 11-year-old thinks everybody should know. If it's your last day alive, then spend it in school because it feels like an eternity. And I think that's the child that's worked out the contradictions. And we laugh because it's funny, but I actually think that we would want learning to last an eternity because we want it to be irresistible so that you couldn't turn away from it and were desperate for it to continue. And so what we've got to do is work out how to overcome some of those contradictions that children experience. These are the questions that children might ask, reasonably ask. Why do we have to write in school when nearly everybody in the adult world seems to type? Why is there only one timetable when I could have a customised web platform just for me? Why is it that I have to memorise things that I can just turn to and look up on my telephone? Why do I have to sit exams at the same time as everybody else this year, when next year I could pass, or last year I could pass, but the system couldn't shift for me? And so in Wales, what we started to do is think whether we can reimagine the way schools work. Can we think through the way in which schools operate in order to make the curriculum and all the other developments in our national mission come together? And so far, we've tested it out and found that there is an enormous appetite to do this. We've asked children, parents, communities, teachers. We've talked to people who are employers, higher education. We've talked to everybody. And what we know is there is an enormous appetite for thinking through the ways in which schools could be different. Three top ways are these. First, people want to see a different image of schooling. They want to move away from the old industrial model and look for a model that is an image of a modern age. And that means thinking about and questioning the rituals, the routines, the traditions that have been on our school system for perhaps 150 years. The second thing people want to think about is the emerging different era for school leadership and system leadership. That we're moving away from a managerial approach, and we're thinking about working in a way that builds on purpose, belief, and professionalism, so that we achieve the ambition that we're after for our children. Now, we need to hold on to the wisdom of the managerial, but weld that into the way in which we're moving forward with a new outlook for the profession. And lastly, the third thing that we want to look at is how people are treated and how people treat each other. That includes our teachers and others who work in school, and how do we create the outlook that says they're a valued image, and at the same time, how do we do right by every single one of our children to give them the best future possible? So that becomes the overall agenda, and inside that, we start to look at some of the things that might be part of the scope of our thinking. The first one is absolutely central. If well-being is such a big concern across the globe, how do we weld together the well-being agenda with the learning agenda, as opposed to run the learning agenda and add on some well-being as we go? How do we do that for children? How do we do it for adults in a school that is a community of learning and growth? Maybe the answer lies in putting services for children directly into school and creating schools at the heart of a community where we build health, social care, mental health, physical health, youth services, early years provision, play provision, into the heart of a building, which is the hub of the community, as access for parents, other people, and the children themselves. But that will mean looking at the rhythm of the school day, the way in which the school year works, and the terms that have been in place for years and years, and thinking, is that the best structure for our children's learning as we go forward? And then it means looking at transitions. As children grow, do they all have to move at once because they were born between August and September? Do they all have to move forward at the same moment in their career, or could they maybe move forward slightly quicker or slightly slower, or maybe they move at different paces because they've got a customised experience? We might need, therefore, to look at the mechanics of examinations. Have we not come to a point where we do not require every single child in the country to sit down and turn over the page to start their examination at the precisely same moment to check whether they've achieved in our schools? Can we not move on from a practice that's been in place for so many years and think of something a little bit more creative? And perhaps a way into that is to look at e-technology and the way that can be harnessed to make a difference to the opportunities we give our children, while at the same time thinking of global sustainability and how we contribute to that agenda. And lastly on the list is probably the most important one. How do we create the professional work of a teacher which is fulfilling, works with other professions, engages with the community and gives children the best opportunity possible? These are the things that Wales is starting to look at. I've tried to talk with you about Schooling Reimagined, and now it's an invitation to be involved. Wales would love it if people would offer ideas, suggestions and ways forward, share their experiences, share their successes and contribute to our agenda. Thanks very much.